I'll just share this because it's kind of interesting. I had a conversation several years ago with one of the most powerful, evil power brokers in the world. Long one-on-one where I was actually surprised at how much he kind of both was inviting me into his world and opening up about it. And the way he framed it goes like this. I'll just do it briefly because it's important. It's like, look, humans are animals. Animals are either predators or prey. Predators don't feel bad when they kill prey. If you feel bad when the prey humans die, it's because you're a prey human and you won't run the world. The apex predator will run the world. They will be the thing that determines the shape of an overall ecosystem. And whether you like what apex predators do or not doesn't matter at all to the fact that apex predators will be the ones who run the world. So the only question is whether you have what it takes to make it into that group or not. And so that's the inexorable argument, right? Power in the form of predatory power is inexorable. Can't do anything about it. It's always going to win. Well, if that's the case, and I can't effectively fight against it, that just binds all kinds of moral possibilities as just stupid and naive. So then the next part was power as virtue, which he said, and it's actually good that the apex predators are the ones who run the world because they're the ones who are steely-eyed and real and grounded enough to understand how shit works. And the world is actually kind of brutal, and people who just don't get how it fucking works can't guide stuff. They'll make it worse. Sometimes you got to put a head on a spike in the yard to keep everybody else from being assholes. And so it goes from power as inexorable to power as virtue. And then some people stop there. And then the last step is feeling good about exercising your own power over because it says you are part of that class, which becomes power as fetish, which is the movement from sociopathy to sadism. When you actually fetishize the exercising of it. Now, of course, everything he was saying was utter gibberish. And it's important to know that. And I didn't bring it up with him because I knew that wasn't relevant in that moment. I was basically getting more information. I'm like, a blue whale is neither predator nor prey in a traditional sense. Neither is an elephant. The apex predator is lower on the food chain than a virus or a parasite or a mosquito in many ways. You're pretending that there's this thing that isn't really there. And you are not acknowledging that the arms race that has always won self-terminates pretty soon. Because when you exponentiate externalization and war, it actually destroys everything. And so basically it's gibberish, but it's compelling enough gibberish that if you kind of want to do it anyways, it's plausible deniability. So what Robert Greene did in the 48 Laws of Power did the same move, right? Which is these types of power dynamics are inexorable. If you don't know who the sucker in the room is, it's you. If you don't think these games are at play, either you're stupid or you actually do know they're at play and you're signaling naivete as a power trick itself, or ignorant signaling or virtue signaling as a method of power. And so that was the power as inexorable. And then the power as virtue is, since this is the only way to be effective at getting anything done, if you have any ethic or moral or scruple at all, you better become excellent at this game of power so you have a chance to affect the things you care about. And so it basically tried to take whatever ethical immune system people had that would resist illegitimate evil applications of power and say that's not possible, and then actually hook it into those evil applications of power are the only ethical thing, which is basically trying to turn an immune system into an autoimmune disease, which some viruses and bacteria do exactly that thing, right? That's what's happening. So one thing that I think is interesting is give people that book as an inoculation. And oftentimes they don't get inoculated, they get infected and they become worse people. Very commonly, as people really start to see how compelling it is, as it tells story after story of the person you trust who was the most trusted fucked him over, and gives example of how the person tried to say, no, really, I am trustworthy because, and they were all examples of fucked over. It puts this little subconscious frame in the back of your head that everybody is a fucker out to get you, and all trust is a vulnerability that's going to mess you up. So either you become a worse person after you become exposed to that, or you embrace that those are real things, but they aren't the only real thing. And you decide from a deeper place that that isn't the thing you're going to do. And you become inoculated, but now you're not naive to it. So you don't lose to it. So you don't set up trying to help the rainforest and lose to it, because you know that fucking shit is happening. But you say, I actually think that there is a way to beat it without becoming it. So that's a very interesting inoculation. So if people become literate to the game of power, well, as a community, while simultaneously becoming clear on legitimate and illegitimate uses, and simultaneously clear on real versus signaling, and the community has practices of helping each other with it, that's what the fucking code of knighthood was, right? Or any of those types of things was, how do we develop legitimate power in the service of the collective good and hold each other to that? And that's totally missing right now and totally needed.
I'm still trying.
One thing about that, I just want to say, it's important. The reason that the biblical teaching, don't let your right hand see what the left hand is giving, right? Do your alms in the closet, was acknowledging how problematic virtue signaling is. And trying to say, if there is something that moves in you deeper than other people recognizing it, deeper than the wounded, insecure child or the mate signaling impulse, if there is an authentic thing that you say, this is actually worth more than me getting credit for in my life, for a reason that is transcendent or spiritual, then that doesn't mean that there isn't still also wounded child and mate signaling desire in you. You just have to be aware of which is which. And one of the problems of any kind of set of ideals or developmental idea is, as soon as we talk about the ideal or talk about what development in the direction of more moral, more ethical, more sovereign is, then someone else can hear that and try to do the behaviors that look like that thing without that actually being an embodied state. And there's going to be benefit to signaling that, even earnestly, even like the kid trying to act like the parent doing the thing. So how do we increase people's earnestness to work on the real embodiment of their virtues rather than the signaling of them? And the signaling only where that is actually necessary and effective for authentic purposes.